Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are turning down the clarity just a bit and really cranking up the chaos. We're plunging into the singular, spectacular world built by Wayne Coyne. For those who know his work, you obviously know the Flaming Lips. They're pretty much synonymous with that kind of cosmic spectacle.
Right.
But today we're aiming past just the confetti cannons and, the giant plastic bubble he floats around in.
Indeed. Our subject today, Wayne Michael Coyne, born back in 1961. He's far more than just the founder, the lead vocalist, and the only constant member of the Lips.
Right.
He is, I think, a genuine conceptual artist.
Yeah.
His entire career feels like this deliberate manifestation of a really singular, dramatic realization he had about, existence itself.
Okay.
So our mission today is really to move beyond maybe the famous stories, the anecdotes, and try to extract the philosophical blueprint, like the core ideas that explain why the art is so intense, why it feels so anarchic sometimes, and why it's so insistent on getting the audience involved.
Exactly. We've got a pretty robust stack of sources here detailing his life, his work ethic, which is fascinating in itself, and some of his truly bizarre experimental projects.
Yeah.
We're looking at a man who somehow successfully balances these two really contradictory roles. He's the stable, foundational presence in the band.
The anchor.
Yeah, the anchor, but at the same time, he's completely dedicated to total artistic instability and constant experimentation.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? We're going to try and show you how his roots back in Oklahoma, his very working class consistency, and maybe most crucially, a near-death experience he had in a fast food restaurant. How these things didn't just influence his art.
Right.
They seem to have actively created the core philosophy that drives pretty much every sonic and visual choice he's made for, the past 40 years now?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So prepare to understand the structure, maybe, that lies beneath all that spectacular chaos. Let's unpack this.
Okay, so Coyne's origins, they actually start in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Troy Hill neighborhood specifically. But his story really pivots pretty quickly to Oklahoma. Early 1961, his family, large Irish Catholic family, he was the fifth of 6 kids they moved.
Right.
And he grew up basically immersed in the culture of Oklahoma City. His childhood, according to the sources, it seemed to center around 2 forms of pretty intense, almost like primal engagement. Music, obviously.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, really brutal pickup football.
And that pickup football, it's not just some, quaint childhood memory. It feels like a really important lens for viewing the energy he later brought to the stage.
How so?
Well, he and his siblings, including his older brother Tommy, they actually branded themselves the Fearless Freaks.
A fearless freak, so
Yeah,
cool.
because of the sheer intensity of these backyard games. Tommy apparently described them looking back as a semi-civilized gang fight. Wow. A semi-civilized gang fight, that's quite a description. It captures this raw, communal, almost violent, but still, ultimately familial energy.
Exactly.
And that name, the Fearless Freaks, it gives immediate, I think, necessary context to the relentless, sometimes kind of aggressive joy and chaotic energy you see in the Flaming Lips live shows.
And it became the documentary title later on, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the 2005 documentary. It feels like an early sign that these shared experiences, even the really abrasive ones, maybe they create the strongest bonds.
But the real, the pivotal life-defining chapter in Coyne's history, the event that seems to provide the intellectual framework for his whole artistic practice, it happens during his time working at Long John Silver's.
It's a fast food job.
Yeah, he started there as a fry cook in Oklahoma City back in 1977. He was still in high school then.
Right.
And crucially, he kept that job until 1990.
Okay, hold on. Think about that timeline for a second. He keeps this totally regular working class job, flipping fish and chips, for 13 years. All while he's actively forming and running a band that was actually starting to get some national attention.
It's pretty incredible.
That commitment to just maintaining a grounded, non-music industry job, it provides such a crucial counterpoint to the spectacle he was simultaneously starting to create.
It absolutely does. And that grounding, maybe it made the central philosophical shift when it happened all the more stark.
Okay, so what happened?
During his second year on the job, the Long John Silver's restaurant, it became the target of a robbery, apparently part of a bigger wave of holdups happening in Oklahoma City around that time.
Oh, wow.
And Coyne and his fellow employees, they were held at gunpoint.
The sources make it really clear that he was completely convinced right then and there that his life was about to end.
Totally.
And here's where the randomness, the theme you mentioned, really dictates his future. The only reason the robbery ended without anyone getting killed, the source materials say, was because the assistant manager couldn't actually open the restaurant safe.
Just couldn't get it open.
Yeah, like a failure of some minor bureaucratic, logistical thing saved his life.
That is the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the genesis for his artistic worldview.
Yeah.
He survived not because he was a hero, not because of some divine intervention,
Right.
but purely because of a glitch in the system. A random, completely meaningless failure.
Yeah.
That immediate, absolutely terrifying confrontation with just arbitrary death.
Mm-hmm.
It cemented a philosophy that you can hear, you can feel all through his music. Life is random, it's sudden, and it really lacks any grand narrative significance.
He put it really bluntly later on, didn't he? Summarizing the trauma. He said something like, 1 minute you're just cooking up someone's order of French fries, and the next minute you're laying on the floor and they blow your brains out.
Exactly, and then he adds, there's no music, there's no significance, it's just random.
No music, no significance, just random.
That quote. It feels like the blueprint, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It absolutely is the blueprint, and you have to analyze it fully. If death comes without music or significance, then the only logical, maybe the only rational artistic response is to intentionally create overwhelming but temporary music and significance yourself.
Ah, okay, so if life is just this void of meaning,
then you have to maximize the spectacle while you can. This is what we sometimes call achieving a state of psychic readiness.
Okay, psychic readiness. That's a key term. Let's clarify what that means in the Coyne context, because it sounds a little counterintuitive. If he's already accepted that everything is random and potentially meaningless,
right?
How does that translate into creating, overwhelming spectacle on stage? Why bother?
Well, psychic readiness, in this sense, means he uses those massive stage visuals, the confetti, the lasers, the bubble, all of it, to kind of shock the audience out of their passive listening state.
Okay.
Just like the robbery instantly shocked him out of his passive fry cook state, right? The spectacle forces the listener to confront the immediate visceral present moment.
I see.
It's an exercise in maximizing the now, because the future is totally arbitrary. His art isn't really trying to find order or explain meaning in the grand sense.
It's about
maximizing the beauty and the synchronicity you can find within the mess. It's confirming that the intense experience is the only real truth you can grab onto.
So the chaos is completely intentional then. It's not just for show. It's like an intellectual response to this deep existential dread he felt.
Precisely.
That foundational experience in a fast food joint of all places dictates the whole structure of a multi-million-dollar rock performance. It's incredible.
So with this philosophy of, let's call it essential randomness, now firmly in place, Coyne, along with his brother Mark, Michael Ivins, and Richard English, they formed the Flaming Lips back in 1983.
Okay.
Initially, Mark was actually on lead vocals.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but after Mark left, Wayne took over the primary songwriting and the vocal duties. And this basically confirmed his role as that singular stable force, as the only constant member since day one.
Right. The anchor again. It's exactly. Guiding this project that's fundamentally dedicated to musical and artistic instability. They fluctuate wildly, across neo-psychedelia, alternative rock, pure experimental noise.
Yeah, they cover a lot of ground. And before they could launch this spectacular career, they obviously needed a pretty spectacular name.
Mm-hmm.
The origin story of the Flaming Lips. It's one of those wonderfully bizarre nuggets that really only Coyne could generate. It perfectly captures that early kind of rebellious, anarchic energy they had.
It's rooted entirely in high school gossip and pure adolescent irreverence.
Right.
The name apparently came up in a conversation between Wayne and Mark when they were juniors in high school.
Okay.
And it stemmed from a rumor, totally unsubstantiated, mind you, that was going around about a classmate.
Oh, boy.
The story was she allegedly contracted genital herpes after receiving cunnilingus from a partner who had active cold sores.
Wow. Okay, that is wonderfully gross, definitely bizarre, and absolutely memorable.
It's exactly the kind of vulgar folklore that only a really small, tight-knit group of teenagers would sort of mythologize. Right?
Precisely. And Coyne's recollection of how they actually cemented the name is just as descriptive. He noted it was established over a pack of Schlitz and some left-handed cigarettes.
Left-handed cigarettes? Okay, just to clarify for listeners, that's period-specific slang for marijuana.
Correct. So this detail just confirms the context, right?
Yeah.
The name was born out of casual intoxication and pretty lowbrow high school humor.
Yeah.
Which then somehow gave birth to this high-concept band that would go on to be celebrated for its, like, intellectual rigor.
It's quite the journey. That origin story, it establishes the initial rule of their identity, doesn't it? Like, nothing is sacred, and pretty much everything can be turned into mythology, even genital folklore.
Absolutely. And that rejection of propriety, it flows seamlessly into their signature live performance. That's really where they moved from just being a band to being a phenomenon. They seemed to understand early on that given the choice between just a simple music show and a full-blown psychedelic experience,
You go for the experience.
you always choose the latter.
And this commitment to spectacle, this is where that philosophy of psychic readiness really manifests visually, right?
Totally. The grand entrance is the cornerstone. Coyne descends, encased in that giant plastic bubble floating across the audience.
Iconic.
Totally iconic. And our sources note that this descent from what looks like an alien mothership is actually a direct, deliberate homage to Parliament Funkadelic.
Ah, P-Funk. Okay, that makes sense. Recognizing their role as, like, the godfathers of stage absurdity.
Exactly. He's acknowledging lineage there.
Now, while the bubble feels like pure kind of ecstatic joy and theatricality, there's another key element of his performance that has a more serious, sometimes even painful historical homage layered in.
You mean the fake blood?
Yeah, the fake blood. Coyne is known for pouring fake blood down his face, apparently via a hitting tube.
And this is a really crucial point because it reveals the depth of his conceptual layering. He does this specifically to honor a famous and quite painful photograph of Miles Davis.
Miles Davis, how so?
Davis was beaten by a police officer back in 1959 while he was just standing outside the jazz club Birdland during a break in his own performance.
Wow, I didn't know that specific story.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal incident. So the blood ritual on stage connects their modern kind of celebratory anarchy to a specific moment of historical pain and resistance within music history.
Okay, but wait a second. If his philosophy, the one derived from the Long John Silver's moment, is that existence is random and meaningless, that there is no significance, why dedicate a performance gesture to honoring a historical figure like Miles Davis? That inherently imposes narrative and significance onto a moment of suffering, doesn't it? Isn't that a fundamental contradiction in his art?
That is the core contradiction, and I think that's what makes Coyne so compelling. You have to grapple with it. He seems to reject the existential significance of life, the idea that God or fate has some grand plan.
Right.
But he absolutely embraces the cultural significance of human connection, of memory, of resistance.
Okay, so it's a distinction between cosmic meaninglessness and human-created meaning.
Exactly. The spectacle, therefore, functions as both things at once. It's a celebration of temporary joy, and it's a sometimes painful acknowledgement of historical struggle. The chaos of the performance is like this deliberate, overwhelming distraction from the random terrors of life. But he still includes these elements that force you to reflect on actual recorded human suffering.
It's that constant duality again, celebrating the present while acknowledging the inevitable pain of the past and maybe the future too.
Precisely.
And beyond the bubble and the blood, the visual assault is just relentless, right? Confetti cannons, lasers, projected images, dozens of these huge balloons bouncing around.
Yeah, and the stage filled with dancers dressed as like gloves, yetis, aliens, you name it.
It's chaos, but it feels choreographed somehow.
It's controlled chaos. And despite being this eccentric rock god centerpiece, Coyne apparently maintains that working class ethic we talked about.
Still.
Yeah, he's frequently cited as being really hands-on, often actively helping the stage crew set up before he performs.
Wow.
He understands the mechanics of the whole theatrical event, not just the presentation part. That Long John Silver's diligence, it seems like it never really left him.
He's the conceptual architect, but he's also willing to, move the physical set pieces himself.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we move from the spectacle of the stage to the absolute anarchy of some of his recorded art and experimental projects. Coyne really pushed the concept of audience immersion beyond just sight and sound.
Way beyond.
And into the realm of the truly conceptual. It started with those famous parking lot experiments back in 96 and 97.
Right. These were not just simple concerts. They were like logistical marvels and exercises in community sound engineering.
How did they work exactly?
Coyne basically wanted to create this communal surround sound experience, using effectively 40 separate boomboxes or car stereos. The idea was they distribute 40 different tapes.
40 different tapes.
Yeah, 40 different compositions on tape to 40 different cars. Then they instructed the drivers and the participants to start the tapes simultaneously.
Simultaneously. Okay, the sources confirm the community engagement was huge, right? Over 1,000 people gathered for this collective audio thing.
Yeah, it drew a big crowd.
But just think about the logistics required. 40 separate tracks, often just containing like ambient drones or specific rhythmic bits or short melodies,
Right.
all relying on the imperfection of human timing and the acoustics of like an outdoor concrete parking lot.
Exactly. The beauty was in the logistical imperfection. The success, or maybe the nature of the composition, depended entirely on how well the participants executed it and the environment itself.
So it could go either way.
Totally. You could have moments of great synchronicity, as Coyne put it, where the pieces just temporarily locked together in this amazing way.
Or
Or it could just sound completely haphazard, which was his own word for it. It's unstable, it's participatory, and it is, I think, the perfect representation of his randomness philosophy translated directly into audio.
And that successful experiment, or at least intriguing experiment, it directly inspired their next and probably most infamous step into recorded anarchy.
The legendary Zerika.
It's the 1997 album Zerika.
Zerika is often seen as like the masterpiece of his anarchic commitment. Instead of 40 cars, the challenge was scaled down maybe, but made exponentially more difficult for the actual consumer.
How so?
The album is composed of 4 stereo tracks, right? Each on 4 different CDs.
4 separate CDs.
4 separate CDs. And they are explicitly designed to be played simultaneously on 4 separate sound systems.
Okay, that's not just music anymore. That's demanding a multi-system quadraphonic setup from your average listener. You're forcing them into the role of conductor and sound engineer.
Precisely.
The consumer friction here feels really intentional, almost like antagonistic. What was the point of creating something so commercially difficult?
Well, Coyne's rationale was pretty crystal clear.
Sure.
He said Zerika embraces a kind of anarchy in art.
Anarchy in art.
Yeah. It acknowledges that no 4 systems will ever be perfectly synchronized. No 2 rooms will have the same acoustics.
Right.
This guaranteed unpredictability, forcing the listener to experience music in a totally new, often kind of jarring way, it confirmed his belief that the random input from the environment and the participant is actually part of the final artistic truth.
So the actual music isn't just what's on the disc.
No. It's in the messy, simultaneous execution of playing it. That's where the art happens.
He also used this idea of found sound and mass participation in live settings too, didn't he? I remember reading about a New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, the New Year's Eve freakout back in 2010. He instructed the entire audience to set their cell phone alarms for 12:55 a.m.
Seriously. And then the resulting, like, collective cacophony of all those different alarms and chimes going off that got added directly into the recorded event.
That's brilliant. It's a way of making the audience's own personal electronic lives part of the band's actual sonic texture.
Totally. And if the sound experiments weren't personal enough, his visual art projects really embraced the idea of using the most visceral, vital materials possible. We absolutely have to talk about the screen print he created for the Austin City Limits Music Festival in October 2010.
Ah, the famous blood print, yes.
Precisely. Coyne created the screen print depicting a skull using his own collected blood.
His own blood.
His own blood. He said his reasoning was deeply personal and just perfectly characteristic of his whole sensibility. It would be silly to use chicken blood. He preferred to use his own vital fluids instead.
Wow. That elevates the whole concept of the artist's signature to this literal, almost sacrificial level, doesn't it? Making the material creation totally inseparable from his physical self. It really does. That insistence on using his own blood, it connects right back to that fear of random death, maybe.
How so?
Well, if he's accepted the fragility of his own physical form, then using that physical form, his blood, as the actual medium for his art, becomes this defiant, really visceral statement of presence. Like, I am here. This is me, literally.
That makes a lot of sense. And his installations continue this commitment to physical immersion, moving beyond just the static concert experience.
Yeah, like in February 2017, he debuted The King's Mouth at the Waterloo Center for the Arts in Iowa.
Right.
This wasn't something you just, like, looked at from a distance.
Yeah.
It was this massive 14-minute light attraction that visitors could physically enter and experience from the inside.
Again, shattering that fourth wall between artist, art, and audience.
Completely. What's consistently fascinating here is just the unwavering commitment to this core idea, from the Long John Silver's moment, defining life as random, to Zerika, defining sound as potentially random, to the blood print, defining artistic essence as intensely personal and physical. Every element seems dedicated to shattering our expectation of just passive consumption and forcing us to accept unpredictability.
So Coyne isn't content just mastering the concert stage and the conceptual album. He also took on the role of filmmaker. He directed and produced that low-budget science fiction film, Christmas on Mars, which he started way back in 2001.
Right. This is pure, like, DIY, low-budget sci-fi artistry. Principal photography was famously shot mostly on a set he built entirely in his own backyard in Oklahoma City.
In his backyard. Amazing.
Yeah.
And the plot is, well, naturally pretty surreal.
Oh, yeah. It details the first Christmas on colonized Mars, and Coyne himself plays this curious, silent super being who's kind of observing a newborn.
Okay. And the presentation of the film was just as important as the content, wasn't it?
Totally. While the band was on tour, Christmas on Mars was shown inside a circus tent after their performances.
The circus?
Yeah. Coyne explicitly intended for it to be like a modern midnight movie.
Mm-hmm.
He referenced the cultural tradition of audience participation and the cult status established by films like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay. So again, turning the consumption of art into this communal, potentially chaotic late-night event.
Exactly. And this commitment to documenting their life and the whole experimental process is also really evident in their documentaries, too.
Like The Fearless Freaks.
Yeah, The Fearless Freaks from 2005, which had all that great early life footage and Coyne's own narration, giving crucial insight into the band's whole trajectory.
And then, much more recently, he co-directed the Flaming Lips Space Bubble film in 2022.
Right, that 2022 film, it captured the ultimate merging of their spectacle and, well, grim reality, didn't it?
Absolutely. The COVID-19 era concerts where the entire band and the audience members were individually encased in those giant plastic isolation bubbles. The theatrical element he created for his entrance suddenly became the only way to actually hold a public event. It felt like this perfect, surreal encapsulation of Coyne's whole career, where the absurd somehow becomes practical.
Totally. And beyond his own projects, his list of collaborations is pretty staggering. It shows just how broad his influence is across different genres. His vocal versatility is truly remarkable.
Yeah, it spans from psychedelic electronic to, well, pop music.
He lent his vocals to the Chemical Brothers on that track, The Golden Path, back in 2003.
Great track.
Yeah. And he also worked with Thievery Corporation on Marching the Hate Machines into the Sun.
That pairing feels like it highlights a real thematic synergy, doesn't it? The sort of euphoric, expensive nature of Coyne's psychedelic vocals. It perfectly complements the driving, hypnotic electronic structures of those bands. It adds this necessary human warmth, maybe, to the machine aesthetic.
I think that's a great way to put it. He also worked with Moby on The Perfect Life. And then moving into more like esoteric rock space, he appeared on that seminal Danger Mouse and Sparkle Horse album, Dark Night of the Soul.
Oh yeah, singing on the opening track, Revenge.
Right, a track that also featured David Lynch.
Wow. That particular collaboration really confirms his position as a kind of muse for artists who are interested in merging dark philosophical concepts with really unique sonic textures.
Definitely. And then shifting gears completely, he collaborated pretty extensively with pop artists like Kesha.
Right, Kesha. He contributed several tracks to her second album, Warrior, didn't he? Like You Control My Heart and Past Life.
Yeah, and they worked on another project called Lip Shit, too.
So why the deep dive into the world of mainstream pop with someone like Kesha? What's the connection there?
Well, I think the synergy with Kesha is probably rooted in a kind of shared theatricality. She herself embraces the weird, the colorful, the rejection of sanitized pop norms.
This is true.
So Coyne brought his unique, slightly unhinged sonic layering and that philosophical perspective, lending a specific kind of psychedelic legitimacy, maybe, to tracks that might otherwise remain purely commercial. It's his ability to bring sincerity to the strange, perhaps.
And we can't overlook the pure, unexpected media stunts either, like writing and performing that James Bond-esque theme song for the Duck Dodgers television show back in 2003.
Oh, yeah. Co-written with Stephen Drost.
And memorably sung by the legend Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. It's just high-concept pop culture absurdity at its absolute best.
He really embraces the full spectrum of media consumption, doesn't he? He wrote and illustrated a comic book, The Sun is Sick, in 2013.
Yeah, reinforcing his identity as this comprehensive multimedia conceptualist.
But maybe the most telling unconventional appearance was that 2006 video message he recorded, the one played at the graduation ceremony for his old high school. The Classen School of Advanced Studies.
Oh, that video is legendary. Just for its brutal honesty and its radical challenge to the whole value of formal education.
It feels like the ultimate validation of his Long John Silver's philosophy, right?
Absolutely. In the video, he spoke so candidly about not actually being a high school graduate himself.
Right.
He recounted his lengthy time as a fry cook at Long John Silver's, and he even mentioned selling marijuana out of his apartment back in the day.
Wow.
His message was this blunt endorsement of the value of life experience, of real-world struggle, over standardized academic credentials.
It's the ultimate anti-establishment mic drop for a high school graduation ceremony. Here's this globally recognized artist telling young graduates that his success actually derived from the streets and the fry line, confirming the skepticism he adopted after that near-death moment. It's like he maintains that if life is random, then the official pathways to success must also be arbitrary.
Totally. And that willingness to engage with just bizarre media extends to pure advertising, too. He appeared in a Virgin Mobile ad in 2013.
Oh, yeah?
Where he actively attempts to brainwash the viewer into switching phone plans.
Seriously, brainwash them.
Yeah, it's played for laughs, but still.
Yeah.
He seems willing to utilize pretty much any platform, regardless of its commercial purpose, as long as he can inject his own unique brand of surrealism and kind of subversive irony into it.
So we've established that Coyne is this architect of profound spectacle. Yet, despite the motherships and the global tours, he remains incredibly rooted in Oklahoma.
Deeply rooted.
He actually lives on a compound, apparently, consisting of 4 houses in the very same neighborhood where he grew up in Oklahoma City.
And this is another one of those profound contradictions that seem to define him. He travels the world, he builds alien landing sites on stage.
Right.
Yet his anchor remains precisely where he started. This loyalty to his local roots is so strong that he even appeared on the state's Centennial Oklahoma Rising float in the 2007 Pasadena Rose Parade.
Alongside other Oklahoma celebrities, right? Like astronaut John Harrington and Mark Cherry, the writer.
Yeah, exactly.
Does this loyalty to home, this refusal to move to the traditional music industry hubs like LA or New York, does that mirror his rejection of formal education we just talked about? Is staying local his own personal way of rejecting the mainstream music industry's sort of requirement to conform and relocate?
I think it absolutely functions that way. It confirms that the authenticity of his creation for him is tied to his lived environment, the specific place that produced both the trauma, the robbery, and the philosophy of the randomness. By staying put, maybe he retains the external perspective that's necessary to critique the very industry he participates in. He controls his own ecosystem, which feels crucial for an artist whose work depends so much on controlled chaos.
Another powerful defining contradiction seems to be his stance on faith. While his art is often described using words like spiritual, transcendent, even deeply utopian sometimes.
Yeah, it evokes those feelings.
Coyne himself identifies as an atheist.
Right. Yet even this atheism is characterized by this palpable sense of, like, longing, a desire for comfort, maybe.
How so?
He has admitted that he wishes he did believe in God, stating openly something like, "I wish I did believe in God. It would be a great relief to think, God will take care of it. God will put gas in the car tomorrow."
Wow. That's heartbreakingly honest, isn't it? That desire for external relief, that hope for someone or something else to manage the randomness of life, is exactly the comfort he denies himself by being an atheist.
Precisely. If God won't put gas in the car tomorrow, then Coyne is left with the full, kind of terrifying weight of responsibility.
Which he then channels directly into creating overwhelming man-made spectacle.
Exactly. And this skepticism about safety and comfort, it deeply informs his view on preparing for life's inevitable terrors, particularly when it comes to his kids.
Ah, right. Coyne has this very specific annual Halloween ritual.
Yeah, where he meticulously dresses up specifically to frighten the neighborhood trick-or-treaters who visit his home.
Okay, on the surface, that sounds kind of deliberately cruel, but you argue there is a philosophical basis for it that connects right back to the Long John Silver's robbery.
I think there is a deep, profound connection there. His belief, as stated, is that scaring children is actually a necessary preparation for adulthood.
Okay.
He argues that in real life, things are horribly scary. You can't just run away from them or turn on a light and it runs away.
So by intentionally giving kids a dose of manageable, theatrical terror.
He's attempting to inoculate them, in a way, against the specific terror of unprepared randomness. He's teaching them early that some fears can't just be easily dismissed or illuminated by flicking a switch. It's a lesson he learned firsthand when he faced down that gun.
That Long John Silver's philosophy really is the engine driving his parenting style too, then.
Wow. Okay, moving on to his personal life timeline, we see some transformations that kind of parallel his artistic shifts. After separating from his common-law wife, J. Michelle Martin Coyne, back in 2012, a relationship whose duration was actually disputed in the divorce filings, interestingly enough.
Right, demonstrating even his personal history is layered with conflicting narratives.
Yeah. He began dating Katie Weaver. Right. They eventually got married in 2019. And in a gesture that just perfectly fused the spectacle of his art with his personal life.
Oh, yeah.
They famously got married inside a giant plastic bubble in downtown Oklahoma City.
Inside the bubble, of course they did. That symbolic gesture, it just confirmed that his entire existence, his love, his family life, his art, it's all viewed through this lens of performative chaos and overwhelming theatrical presence.
Totally. They've since welcomed 2 sons, Bloom Bobby Coyne in 2019 and Rex Roses Coyne in 2022. It feels incredibly fitting that a man who uses the bubble as a means of both theatrical entrance and viral health protocol,
right, during COVID,
would then use it as the sacred space for his own marriage. It just confirms the bubble, that chaotic vessel, is probably his most profound and recurring symbol. #outro.
Okay, so to try and summarize the findings of this deep dive, Wayne Coyne emerges as, well, the ultimate conceptualist, doesn't he? An artist whose foundation was forged not really in a recording studio, but maybe on the dirty linoleum floor of a Long John Silver's.
Yeah. Confronting the pure, arbitrary fact of random death.
That moment, it created a kind of covenant, didn't it? Defining his entire artistic practice as one built on embracing that randomness and deliberately overwhelming the audience with intentional spectacle.
Right.
And this manifests in absolutely everything, from the floating bubble and the Miles Davis homage via fake blood to the insistence on challenging the listener's role through these logistically complex projects, like the 40-car parking lot experiments or the 4 CD simultaneous listening required for Zyreka.
And he remains that singular constant force in a band that's dedicated to musical and thematic instability, all while anchoring himself firmly back in his Oklahoma compound.
Yeah. He successfully bridges this high-concept visual art like the King's Mouth installation or the screen print made with his own blood with this really profound intellectual honesty. Exemplified, I think, by that radical graduation speech that prioritized raw life experience over any formal education.
We've thoroughly analyzed how Coyne uses his physical body, his specific geography, and his unique philosophy of fear in his work.
Right.
And it brings us back to maybe the most compelling contradiction we found,
Right.
his expressed desire for the relief of belief, wishing God would somehow ease the burden of life, yet maintaining this fierce atheism.
Yeah. So consider this as you leave this deep dive today. Does an artist who champions transformative spectacle, who strives so hard to create meaning in what he sees as a meaningless void, does that artist need to actively reject fundamental personal comfort and certainty? Do they need to hold on to that tension in order to maintain the necessary chaotic energy required to create true, meaningful, and unpredictable art?